No spit, no bias, no censorship. I'm Dan Wootton. This is Outspoken episode number 293. And breaking right now, the UK on the edge over a not guilty verdict for Labour councillor Ricky Jones, who literally called on camera for his political opponents protesting after the Southport Massacre to have their throats slit.
We need to hold their throats and get rid of them all.
Meanwhile, Britain's political prisoner Lucy Connolly remains behind bars for a solitary tweet that incited no violence whatsoever. The difference, of course, is that she is a white woman, married to a Tory councillor who was forced to plead guilty as she was remanded in custody, while Jones is a man of colour on the left and an elected Labour politician who was released from custody in order to fight the case from home. So in my digest next, the seismic nature of this verdict in Tinderbox Britain and why it means free speech is only available now for those on the left. Then my superstar panel weigh in. Foreign Affairs, Defence and Security spokesman for the SDP, Henry Bolton, a former army officer and diplomat, and the best-selling author, entrepreneur and ex-UKIP deputy leader, Rebecca Jane. Also coming up on the show today, fury across England as St George's flags are removed by Labour as Pakistani flags are raised as that nation's Independence Day celebrations take over the streets. Slippery Starmer's bizarre hug with Zelensky ahead of Trump's crunch peace talks with Putin in Alaska. And finally, I get to challenge Benjamin Butterworth head-to-head over his backing of the GB News ban on Tommy Robinson because he is dangerous. It might make you angry, but I think you'll be entertained. Then in the uncancelled after show on Substack, Prince William and Catherine's hilarious nickname for Meghan Markle's As Ever product range has been revealed, as Mariah Carey is the latest celebrity to snub the fake Duchess. We're going to team up with YouTube sensations, the Sidley twins. Oh my God, they're amazing, of the Twin Talks, for all of the latest royal news, which will be a bit of a palate cleanse, I think, and you can sign up to watch at www.outspoken.live. Let me tell you, though, my Substack, www.outspoken.live, is where you can follow along with me everything that happens out of Alaska. Tonight, I'm going to be hosting a special live chat, and I would love you to join me. You can subscribe completely for free, www.outspoken.live. At the end of the show, we'll also be revealing the worst Britain in the world this week. You can still vote on YouTube in the posts or community tab, but here are the Union jackasses you're choosing between. Camilla Tominay on Monday for describing Tommy Robinson as a white supremacist. Tuesday, scheming sturgeon for the ludicrous claims in her new book, which was dismantled by J.K. Rowling. Wednesday, Victoria Derbyshire for deciding that it's the illegal migrants in the hotels up and down the UK that we should feel sympathy for. And Thursday, yesterday, Narinder Kaur for saying it's racist for Strictly Come Dancing to turn her down for being too controversial. So is it Camilla? Is it Nicola? Is it Victoria? Is it Narinder? Get voting on YouTube. I will bring you the results and your comments at the end of the show. But now, let's go. The elite class don't understand the significance of the Ricky Jones not guilty verdict, which has now proven categorically that the UK has a two-tier justice system. So think about this, a mixed-race Labour councillor and union official with a sob story about racism at school 4 decades ago escapes punishment altogether for literally calling on his political opponents to have their throats slit, aided by a violent gesture, in front of a baying hard-left mob and an anti-racism demonstration in Walthamstow, East London.
We've got children and women using those trains, destroying the summer relatives. They are disgusting, nasty bastards, and we need to hold their throats and get rid of them all. Thank you all. I'm going to leave it now. And free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free.
But a grieving white mother, who happens to be married to a Tory councillor, posts an impertinent tweet after being traumatised by the Southport Massacre and finds herself locked up to this day. Now, let me be clear, because this is a nuanced situation. I am a free speech absolutist. I actually don't believe he should be in jail because I'm no hypocrite. But we have no justice system in this country anymore. Simply a judiciary that works as an extension of the Westminster establishment and deep state. Because the fact Ricky Jones didn't spend a day incarcerated and was allowed to be released to fight his case legally over the course of a year, while Lucy Connolly was remanded in custody and bullied by the deep state into a guilty verdict, sums up the fact that we know none of us are treated equally anymore. I mean, I want to paint a scenario for you. Can you just imagine Tommy Robinson standing up next month at the United Kingdom rally and calling for his supporters to slit the throats of every Antifa demonstrator? You know he would never leave jail again. We all know it. And that's the issue here. Now, the MSM is still gaslighting us over this case, with the British Bashing Corporation and Sly News not even considering the verdict worthy of a breaking news announcement. Their view is, why wind up the little people about this? That's their editorial judgment. But I have to be honest, I don't even think GB News and Talk TV have any idea of the seismic nature of this verdict in Tinderbox Britain and why it means free speech is only available for those on the left.
Labour councillor Ricky Jones, 58, has been found not guilty at Snaresbrook Crown Court of encouraging violent disorder after he called for far-right protesters' throats to be cut at an anti-racism rally in the wake of rioting following the Southport murders. Now,
Suspended Labour councillor Ricky Jones, 58, has been found not guilty at Snaresbrook Crown Court of encouraging violent disorder after he called for far-right protesters' throats to be cut at an anti-racism rally in the wake of rioting following the Southport murders last year.
And the details of what happened with the verdict are actually extraordinary. The jury at Snaresbrook Crown Court took just over half an hour to come to one of the most shocking decisions in modern British legal history. That was despite the prosecution arguing Jones had used inflammatory, rabble-rousing language in the throng of a crowd, described as a tinderbox, where violence could readily have been anticipated. Superintendent Jack May Robinson told the court any spark could have led to an incident or disorder occurring. Jones mouthed "thank you" at the jury before leaving the court today. And because of the UK's antiquated justice system, we'll probably never know the makeup of that jury and why they made that decision. But what is obvious to me is that Jones was presented as a 58-year-old victim of a hard knock life, a sufferer of ADHD, of dyslexia, who had suffered racism at school 4 decades earlier after being forced to do PE in his underpants. Yet the judge in the Lucy Connolly case didn't give a shit that her young son had been killed by NHS neglect, prompting her emotional reaction after Axel Rudikapana butchered 3 girls to death at a Taylor Swift dance class. Nick Buckley perfectly sums up the comparison.
The point here is we've got dozens of people in jail for Facebook posts who said things not as scary as he said. He said slit their throats to a crowd who cheered and clapped. That compared to someone on Twitter going, I don't care if they burn the hotels down, the migrant hole, I don't care. There's a huge difference there. Not caring about something is not the same as saying slit their throats. Neither of them should be in jail. Neither of them should have really got to court. Because none of it was incitement to violence. Ricky Jones is an idiot, but he wasn't purposely trying to incite violence.
Today's verdict has united the British political right. Nigel Farage said this is another outrageous example of two-tier justice. Tommy Robinson posted Labour councillor Ricky Jones found not guilty of inciting violent disorder after calling for right-wing protesters to have their throats cut. clear two-tier judiciary, Lucy Connolly has been rotting in prison for over a year for deleted social media. And James Cleverly of the Tories added, "This is unacceptable. Perverse decisions like this are adding to the anger that people feel and amplifying the belief that there isn't a dispassionate criminal justice system." But there's also scepticism because we all know tier justice now targets patriots on the right, as Susan Hall, the Conservative leader in London, made clear.
Well, apparently, this chap called Ricky, who suggested people's throats were cut, has been found not guilty. I'm sure we've all seen the video. Who saw that coming?
Well, we all did. We all saw this coming. But unfortunately, that's why I think today has galvanised a sense of horror about the direction of the United Kingdom. Alison Pearson wrote, "I feel sick." Labour councillor told crowd to cut their throats. He didn't mean it literally. Lucy Connolly didn't mean it literally either. But Lucy is white and married to a Tory councillor. Sophie Corcoran added, "Let's be real. Lucy Connolly was jailed because she was married to a Tory councillor. Ricky Jones got away with it because he was a Labour councillor. We all know it. He was never going to get punished for it." Dr. Philip Casale of the New Culture Forum posted, "They hate us. They want us dead. And if people call for our throats to be slit, then that's just fine and effing dandy." Kelly J. Keane replied, "Ricky Jones was talking about normal people who were protesting illegal migration and the impact on their communities when he said far right. He called for them to be killed. The CPS must have done a terrible job not to get a conviction." From Alex Armstrong, "It's getting to the point where we will need to investigate the social media and political leanings of every single judge and jury in the country. The rule of law is no longer applied fairly, it is applied politically." And Reform's Darren Grimes added, "Two-tier farce under Starmer looks like skin colour and party card decide your fate." But as usual, the left are using the verdict to sow further division. With Narendra Kaur writing, "Before you scream Lucy Connolly, her words did and were meant to cause violence," before adding, "cry more." And this is the problem. It's just a game for them. It's just a game for them. Yet our disunited kingdom is on the brink, with anger rising about the migrant hotel protest before this verdict even came in. And I've got to show you these new shocking details that are emerging about the resident of the Britannia Hotel at Canary Wharf, who is said to have entered the house of an elderly and blind female resident, but was not arrested by the cops.
This is the guy. This is him. He tried to walk into a girl's house on the IOD. We watched her chase him. Now he's trying to cover his face. Look.
Please. We caught you, mate. We caught you. We caught you. This man in this vehicle has just entered a lady's property without her consent, and these officers have said it's not an offence. They're letting him go. They're letting him go. Officer, how is that not an offence? How is it not an offence entering someone's house?
That poor lady.
Regardless, she didn't want him in the house.
Is alarm fear and discretion?
lady, bro.
Is alarm fear and discretion offence? Is she not alarmed even in fear?
You're letting him go.
Let him go. He's allowed to do that.
He's
allowed to do that.
No wonder those people were angry. As Tommy Robinson posted, Met Police confirmed that this thing entering your home is not a crime, but being angry about it is. This is the UK in 2025. No wonder last night the police were struggling to justify their bonkers decision.
About this incident, it's false.
Okay, but I know there's some new communication coming out, so I know.
So why did they release false information then? Because they said that the residents from the Isle of Dogs was following the guy and chased him to the house. This is not true.
So think of it like the CEO is the commissioner.
Yeah.
I'm just a doorman. I don't know much more in that aspect than what I get told.
But now the family of the blind woman whose home was invaded have spoken out, revealing that she was terrified when the man entered the home, which is just a few hundred yards from the Britannia Hotel. Her sister, Cheryl Augustus, says she is traumatised by what happened, adding she is in a vulnerable state. She had been in hospital earlier in the week and had been in an induced coma earlier in the day when this lunatic bursts in. She was so scared. He never said he was being chased. He didn't say he was coming in for safety. The door was open because it's so warm. They had no idea what his intentions were. They feared for their lives. He could have been anyone or capable of anything. Yet she claims police then returned him to the hotel via car and did not question him on why he had entered the property. And she added, and here's where the anger comes, but you get arrested for standing up to them. It's two-tier policing. They are an absolute disgrace. I'm horrified at what has happened. It's disgusting. It's a joke, but it's not funny. It's deadly serious. People are terrified. Now, I have to say, it's only pressure from the independent media and citizen journalists that has now forced the police into a humiliating U-turn in the past few hours, with the Met revealing that they have reversed their decision and now arrested the man. This is their statement. It's nuts. On Wednesday night, we released an initial statement following an incident on the Isle of Dogs where a man allegedly entered a woman's flat. He was detained by members of the public nearby. Our investigation continued on Thursday with officers carrying out extensive CCTV inquiries and speaking to witnesses. As a result of this, in the early hours of this morning, we arrested a man in the Hackney area on suspicion of common assault. He is believed to be in his early 20s. We can confirm that this is the man who allegedly entered the flat. He is now in police custody. What? How on earth could you not realise that you needed to arrest him at the time? Why on earth did it take us pointing it out to you? As Jack Hatfield pointed out, now this is what you call a backpedal. You morons in blue should have arrested him to begin with, established intent, and then this entire situation could have been avoided. But no, you just had to make a big mess of the entire thing, resulting in a victim being arrested as well. And Rael Braverman, formerly of Reform UK, husband of Suella Braverman, when policing becomes an exercise in protecting a narrative, justice takes a back seat. And by the way, just for the arseholes like Lewis Goodall of the fake news agents who say that the crime at migrant hotels is just a far-right invention, like all of the crime across London and our big cities, just a far-right invention. Well, let me tell you, there's now been another arrest of a resident of an asylum hotel near Gatwick Airport, the luxury 4 Points by Sheraton Hotel, being charged with sexually assaulting 3 women in a 3-week period. This is Qais Al-Aswad, 26 years old. He has pleaded not guilty to the charges. This will make you angry. His solicitors have asked for time to apply for legal aid, while also admitting he will require an Arabic interpreter for the trial. We are a joke country at this point, but the left continue to gaslight us. Like Bushra Sheikh, who says making these points equates to full-blown anti-Muslim hate and racism.
Something is seriously wrong in Britain right now. Just observing, looking outside inwards into the country. I mean, I've been sent multiple videos of what I would deem are British, hooligan British, national thugs, the far right, that have been chasing migrants not only out of their hotels, but that have been abusing them and hounding them on the streets for simply being the wrong skin colour or just perceived Muslimness, okay? Because this is like racism and Islamophobia all combined in Britain right now. That is not acceptable. That is absolutely disgusting that there are Brits that are doing that to human beings, that are treating people from ethnic minorities, ethnic communities, migrants as subhuman. And when you see that happen, you know that something is seriously wrong in that country. And on top of that, you have individuals that think it's okay to go and film women on the beach, Muslim women in their bikinis, and sitting in Dubai. That shit would not happen over here. There is not a single tourist or an immigrant or a local that would go to a poolside, to a beach, to a resort and film non-Muslim women in their bikinis. That shit would not happen, because the moment you use someone else as your content without their permission, you can go to jail for that stuff. It is abhorrent. The UK, there's something seriously wrong.
No, Bushra. There's something seriously wrong with you to completely misrepresent the patriots of the United Kingdom who have had enough. Look at the brave women protesting last night at ground zero of the uprising, the Bell Hotel in Epping, Essex. And they made clear what they are really concerned about.
I'm here because I don't feel safe in what was a very safe community. I don't feel safe walking alone in the forest. I'm worried about my children, and we don't know who these people are. So I think, we can't just be, but they're not the same culture as us, and it worries me what their ideas are.
I'm exactly the same. They've got very different culture, very different mindset. Women and children are second-class citizens. They never have been in this country, and they never should be.
Bushra Sheikh, stop trying to purposefully misrepresent good, honest women like that who are patriots and simply worried about their safety. I have to say, it's deeply sad that all this division comes on the day that the UK marks the 80th anniversary of VJ Day, where veterans showed the best of British during this very emotional moment in front of King Charles and Queen Camilla.
I make no apology for briefly going off the script to salute my brave king, who is here with his beloved queen, in spite of the fact that he's under treatment for cancer, and anything that I share with him, and if it provides any comfort of which I've been rid for the past 25 years and counting. And I salute him for gracing this occasion, because by his presence here, he has gone a long way to make sure that his granddad's 14th Army is never given the sobriquet again of a forgotten army.
A beautiful moment on what I believe has been a devastating day for the United Kingdom. And I say this sadly, but so much of what my grandparents fought for in World War II, including our justice system, is now being trampled all over by slippery Starmer, the British deep state, the Westminster establishment, and a suicidal government. Now, the Superstar panel. Rebecca Jane and Henry Bolton with me. Henry, this has smashed confidence in the so-called justice system. I now call it a judiciary because I don't really think we have a justice system, given we know that he has received completely different treatment than Lucy Connolly, who was remanded in custody, forced to plead guilty, and then shown not a scrap of sympathy by the judges in her case.
Yep. I mean, look, I'm a former police officer. One of the fundamental principles when I was a police officer was, first of all, your mission is the preservation of life and property, but you exercise your powers as a constable without fear or favour. And once you have intentionally or otherwise violated that principle, you lose the confidence of the public that you serve. And if you lose the public confidence, your policing by consent is threatened. The entire principle on which the rule of law hangs is undermined. And that is something that up until very recently, has never been allowed to happen. Whatever the resources of the police have been, whatever, but 25 years ago, policing was considered one of the most, if not the most respected profession or job in the country. I wonder where it ranks now. But, in terms of the police, to be fair, they did bring this individual before, or they did submit the file to the Crown Prosecution Service. The Crown Prosecution Service prosecuted it, but then we've got the court case and we now know the result. Now, it's not entirely up to the jury as to what happens. It's largely up to the judge and the instructions that the judge gives the jury. Now, I don't know what instructions the guidance the judge gave on this occasion, but the judge, I don't know whether you know this, Judge Rosa Dean. And Judge Rosa Dean was serving on the Sentencing Council until last year, and she's now what's called a diversity and community relations judge. So that just, to me, adds to the depth of this breach of credibility, breach of principle on which the rule of law in a common law system hangs. So I am seriously worried, because if you lose the public's trust and confidence in the rule of law, not just policing, but in the judiciary, then it's very, very difficult to get it back. Very difficult. And, it's a failure of leadership. It is leadership that has allowed diversity to come into the judiciary. I didn't even know until today that we've got diversity and community relations judges. Did you? I mean, that we've got DEI everywhere. We've got cities of sanctuary. We've got schools of sanctuary. We've got boroughs of sanctuary. Next we'll have courts of sanctuary.
Yes.
I mean, that's where this is going. It's utterly insane.
And Rebecca, we just know as a result of all of that, all of what Henry has just pointed out, that if Henry or you or I or Tommy Robinson were to get up and say the same thing, we would not see the outside world again for a very long time. And we know that. We know that in our core.
Yeah, and this is what we've been saying for a long time now, is that it's actually becoming unpopular to be British and to be white. Well, actually, it's not becoming, it is, actually. And that's the state of our country right now. And what Henry says is really interesting, actually, because, yes, I do actually think that the confidence in policing is gone. And how on earth would you ever actually get it back? I still think that we have a minuscule of faith in our justice system, but as somebody that is trained in law, I am now starting to wonder if that is also going the same way. We know people don't call police officers anymore if they've had a crime because they just don't trust that they're going to do anything about it.
Which skews the crime statistics, doesn't it? Well, I mean, look at this Zach Goldsmith. And I mean, he's hardly what you would describe as some type of flame-throwing extremist, but retweeted what I had posted saying, is it any wonder that a growing mass of British people are beginning to view the state and its institutions as the enemy? Henry Bolton.
Yeah, no, it's no wonder at all. And what Rebecca's just said, the population, I don't think it is unpopular that to be white British. I think the white British are being oppressed, suppressed by activists who are actually in the minority. I think that's what's happening. And I think the effect is that, you can think back to Germany in the 1930s. People knew, and in the 1940s, people knew what was going on in concentration camps, but they daren't say anything about it. And that's where you go to an extreme. But that's what happens when you've got a breakdown in the rule of law, when you've got authoritarian laws being made, when the law is not equally applied. That's what happens. And, I do think, though, that there are enough people now who are standing up with the courage to say, OK, nick me, put me in front of the courts. This is what I believe. Yes. And if you want to challenge me on that, put me in front of a court and challenge me on it. OK, I don't care any longer, because that's the only way, I think, at this stage, that we are going to trigger the return of statesman-like leadership that will put this right,
Totally.
that will give direction
but the problem
to
is,
the institutions of state.
I agree, Henry, but the problem with that, and I was listening to Stephen Barrett on this earlier, the barrister who said the whole system, the whole justice system is close to collapse anyway, and if more and more people ask for jury trials, then that will actually happen. I mean, Rebecca, I also want to talk about the obvious two-tier policing that's been going on up and down outside the migrant hotels. I mean, how utterly extraordinary that evil looking man from the Britannia Hotel, God knows where he's come from, you know, God knows what his background is, enters an elderly woman's house, is apprehended by the patriots, by the public, but is let go by the Metropolitan Police only for them to U-turn 24 hours later. This is madness. And again, I was always someone my whole life that wanted to trust the police, wanted to believe the police, wanted to think that the police were doing the right thing. And I'm sure Henry has a lot of sympathy for that. But how can we see these types of incidents on our street, Rebecca, every single damn day and keep that faith?
Yeah. So it goes into the too hard to do box. It also goes into the this will be unpopular if we do something about it box. And I may suffer repercussions because of his race box as to why they didn't want to deal with it at the time. I don't care what his race is, what his ethnicity is. I don't care about any of that. I don't care if he was a white person who is not in one of the migrant hotels. You go into an elderly woman's home uninvited and you should be arrested. There shouldn't be any questions, if, buts or maybes. And let's just talk about Bushra, because that video was absolutely disgusting. I will do. Yeah.
Because we're just racists. Please respond to Bushra Sheikh.
I know. Did you notice that actually the one thing that she didn't do was talk about the sexual assaults and talk about that gentleman going into that lady's property? She didn't talk about that. She talked about nonsense, about, you know, being in Dubai and nobody would be taking pictures of somebody that was white on the beach. Yeah, all right. If you were in Dubai and you walked into somebody's property, I think you'd be arrested for that too. But conveniently, we'll forget about that because it doesn't fit the narrative. And as for Narinda, I have some time for her on occasions. She needs to stop using AI to craft her tweets and actually speak what she actually genuinely thinks. Because the double little dots, that's AI. So stop doing it for clickbait, Narinda. Find your opinion.
Shots fired indeed. Yeah, Henry, what do you think about, though, this incident in Canary Wharf? Because how on earth can we have these criminals? And by the way, they are criminals. I describe them as illegals, Henry. I don't give a damn if someone thinks I'm being insensitive. I do not describe them as asylum seekers. The fact they are here means they are criminals because they have entered our country illegally. So we have these criminals walking around neighborhoods. This is a new neighborhood, Canary Wharf, where there wasn't an asylum hotel until very recently. They can literally enter a house. And by the way, eyewitnesses said that this dude had entered various other houses in the morning and the police let him go, reversing the decision 24 hours later.
Yeah, two things there. One, I mean, I totally agree. This, you know, they are illegal immigrants. They are by law illegal immigrants. I mean, I had a row on live TV with Piers Morgan over this because I said it is an invasion. It's not a military invasion, but it is nonetheless an invasion. It is overwhelming us, and it's overwhelming us, as Rebecca said earlier, with culture, because Dan, I spent 27 months in Afghanistan. I've been around that part of the world, Central Asia and various parts of Africa, living and working in those places on security issues. I know that they have a very different culture, a very different attitude to women, to children, to violence. And we are we are opening the door to these people, thinking that culture is not going to sort of meet with horror from our culture. Of course it is. It is absolutely disingenuous. No, it's dishonest to imply anything else, or it's incredibly naive. But it also has to be said, I see that picture you're putting up there. But
one of your various clashes with Piers Morgan, I think it's fair to say, Henry, over the years.
It has to be. It's not a very flattering photograph of me, but it has to be said, though, that one of the frustrations that we had 25, 30 years ago with policing was that there is no power for police to deal with trespass. And if somebody doesn't use force to enter a premises, if somebody has left that premises, then you've got no power of arrest. There is no power for those police officers to act. Now, that's something we had a legion of cases where we really wanted to act, but actually the way the law is phrased, we actually couldn't. And the law still hasn't changed. There needs to be a law to deal with trespass, as there should have been 25, 30 years ago. So what's happened in this case, I believe, is that the police have looked into it. And as you say, this individual has tried to enter various premises. And I think at some point, he's probably pushed somebody or he's touched somebody. Hence, now he's been arrested for common assault. And it's rare to have somebody arrested for common assault. Actual bodily harm, yes, or grievous bodily harm, absolutely. But common assault is just touching somebody. And you can be arrested for it, but it's very, very rare because obviously you touch people sort of every day. And so I think that to be fair to the police, what they've done is they've seen that this is a massive problem. They've not had a power to act on the evidence that they had at that time on the street, but they've looked into it. They've found some evidence from somewhere, and now they've acted. So to be fair to them, I think we need to say that. But the law, the courts, ultimately the policy behind allowing these people to roam free in our communities places the British public at serious risk. And I don't care for people who say, yes, but white Anglo-Saxon people commit crime as well. I don't give a shit. I care that we are opening the door to more people who will do that. And we know that they will because we know their cultures are cultures in which that such behavior is commonplace, far more so than here. So, that's.
Tommy Robinson has expressed fury at a new war on the St. George's flag, just as the Pakistani flag is embraced by authorities as that country's Independence Day celebrations spill out onto the streets of the United Kingdom in the most extraordinary manner. So this has all come after Epping locals, as reported by GB Politics, have started to erect the St. George's flag around the town. Fearing the same thing was going to spread up and down the country, the Labour Council in Birmingham immediately moved to remove what they described as dangerous British flags from city streets, as the Daily Mail says that it exposes Labour's true colours. Of course, we do know that they are anything but patriotic. As Tommy Robinson expressed, imagine that, putting up England flags in England's second city puts people's lives at risk. Why is that exactly? Birmingham City Council? But it gets worse, of course, because as councils take down the Union flag and St. George's Cross that Brits have raised in their own area, they openly promote and support the raising of the Pakistani flag. England's second largest city, Birmingham, lighting up the city green to mark Pakistan's Independence Day, which Tommy Robinson described as a conquered city. Restore Britain. Rupert Lowe's movement went one step further, suggesting this is Britain, not India. But honestly, if you look at these scenes from Manchester last night, you'd be surprised. Watch. That is the United Kingdom, Tommy went on. Pakistanis blocking the roads of Manchester to celebrate Independence Day for Pakistan. Ask yourself, if a war broke out between Pakistan and the UK, which side would these rats be on? The enemy within. And there were more scenes like that. So an ambulance was unable to get through the crowd. But it wasn't just in Manchester. Look at London. And there were some videos online of the local police actually joining these celebrations, which prompted Tommy to post Greater Manchester Police dancing around with Pakistanis as they celebrate Pakistan Independence Day. Ironically, in England, Manchester's children have been abused en masse by predominantly Pakistani rape gangs. Even just last month, GMP revealed they're investigating 1,000 plus rape gang suspects. But if you just think this is Tommy's cause, you'd be surprised, because feelings are hardening on the right of British politics, with Will Kingston posting Pakistan is a corrupt terrorist safe haven. Homosexuality is illegal. Women are subject to honour killings. Children are systematically sexually abused. I couldn't care less about its Independence Day. Kelly J. Keane writing, if Pakistan is so great, why don't people move there? If you were flying the Pakistani flag today and celebrating that country, you should move there. I suspect property is very, very cheap. To my superstar panel, Rebecca Jane and Henry Bolton. Henry, what do you make of what's going on the streets of the United Kingdom, which really don't look like the culture of England anymore?
No, it's certainly not the culture of England. This is ethno-religious nationalism, to give it its correct technical name, and it is nationalism reflecting that it brings the three things together: ethnicity, religion, and nation. The problem is that this is not the Christian religion. This is not the religion of the United Kingdom. This is not the religion on which our culture is based, even if people are atheists here in the United Kingdom or whatever. This is not the nation of Pakistan. This is back to the whole. Well, the other thing is it's cultural displacement, Dan. There are no English people there apart from the police. There are, well, they might say they're English because they've got a British passport.
And here they are dancing along, Henry. This is the moment they all start dancing along. Is that professional, Henry, for the police to be acting like that?
No, it is absolutely not. You've got to be impartial. And when you join in on these things, it's the same with the LGBT things. You are demonstrating that you are not objective. You are, at least for that moment, you are siding with one group in the community that is separate from the others. That event is an exclusive event. If you are Muslim, if you are Pakistani, then you're going to be welcome there. If you're down there with the St. George's flag, or saying, I'm a Pakistani, but I'm a Brit, and I'm carrying, here I am with the Union Jack and the St. George's flag in the other hand, I don't think you're going to last very long.
And then we've got Nick Timothy, Rebecca, exposing the fact that Labour has given £2.5 million to the British Muslim Trust. Its accounts have been inactive for years. It was founded by the Aziz Foundation, which attacks Prevent as racist. Its CEO advises Labour on the Islamophobia definition. So it feels like this is only going to get worse under Labour.
Well, we knew that, didn't we? Like, we were telling people this before they voted Labour in. We told them, yeah, the Conservatives are bad, but actually Labour are going to be worse, and they're actually just proving it. And Henry's completely right. You know, the police joining in with that little celebration, it is condoning what they do, and it is an exclusive event. I wouldn't be welcome there. And yes, I completely and utterly agree. If you love the Pakistani traditions so much, that's the country for you. This is England. Be inclusive, yes, we can be welcoming, but this is our country. We weren't built on having women as second class citizens and all of their traditions that they have that we don't agree with. That is not us. And if you want that to be us and you think that that's okay here, then leave and let us be as we are, and you can do as you please. But I think that the whole thing is just utterly disgraceful, and unfortunately, Labour are never going to be our answer. They're never going to support us. They're never going to do anything about it.
Well, of course they're not. But do you know what's making me absolutely furious at the moment? It is the mainstream left trying to say that people like me, who are talking from personal experience, lived experience, having seen friends actually killed in our biggest cities because of the lawless crime wave, which is sweeping the country. But obviously I live in London and I'm very open about that. And so that's specifically what I'm referring to. If we say this, according to that sweaty little asshole, Lewis Goodall, apparently we're just propaganda agents. Watch this.
There is a big problem with phone theft. Yes, there is a problem with sort of that sort of robbery that we haven't seen in the past. Other crimes, but when you compare them to 10, 20 years ago, have gone down, whether it's car theft or burglary or whatever it happens to be. And these things do shift and they do fluctuate. And I think there are also questions and problems, which we talked about on the show many times. And I think liberalism ought not to shy away from this. Yes, there are some problems around integration. Yeah, there are problems in particular, which we've seen play out in terms of sexual violence against women. These are problems which ought to be taken seriously. No one should shy away from them. We should talk about them in a dispassionate way and think about how we're going to improve them. But the truth is, these people are not interested in that. I think, John, half of the people that have been coming for us over the course of the last week and who constantly invoke this particular politics, most of them probably have never been to London, or they haven't been to London recently. They certainly don't live there. I have been, it is quite interesting, astonishing in the last 24 hours, partly in response to that clip. Astonishing how many of these far-right accounts seem to have been mugged in the last 24 hours alone. Seems to have had, remarkable that. Just remarkable that in the last 24 hours they've been walking around the streets of London and have been subject to personal muggery or whatever it happens to be. And the truth is that most of it is complete bollocks. Most of it is just nonsense. Most of it is a lie. Most of it is made up. Why do they do it is the interesting thing. And I think they do it because London, and not just London, but the big cities as well, it embodies the politics that they abhor.
Lewis, you are a disgusting creep of a human being. I hate you for what you just said, because this is so personal to me. I've never spoken about this on the show before, but I want to show you a picture of my friend Paul Mason. He was one of the country's, one of the world's top bankers, and he was walking home from the Ivy Club in central London at the start of 2021, where he was attacked for his phone with one punch to the head. He died in hospital 6 months later. A friend of mine, Mr. Goodall. These are not lies. You can go and look at the court case where the despicable man who did this was sentenced to just, I think it was 3 years, just 3 years in jail. Think about these stories. Think about these victims, Lewis Goodall, before putting forward your sick propaganda to try and defend your mate Sadiq Khan. But he hadn't finished there, watch.
Their entire shtick, their bullshit, is predicated on the idea that multiculturalism, people from different backgrounds, contemporary liberalism, if you like, all the things that have made up liberalism over the last 10, 20, 30 years, that if you have these things, that it will inevitably lead to a sort of civil war. It will lead to social breakdown. That you have these people living side by side, it cannot happen. And in particular, they focus on Muslims. If you've got a lot of Muslims somewhere, it will just inevitably, inexorably, reflexively lead to a kind of civil breakdown. It doesn't. You and I both know we live in London. It doesn't. London is a thriving city which has a huge economy, which contributes so much to the UK. And the fact that it doesn't, it means that London lives rent-free inside their head, because it is a living embodiment of how completely wrong they are in their politics every day of the week. So they have to slam it, they have to eviscerate it, they have to tell lies about it, and all of our great cities as well.
I think he's disgusting, Henry Bolton. I mean, as I say, I lost my friend. I mean, what can be worse than that? One of your friends being mugged and killed for their mobile phone. And by the way, I'm not lying when I say that I have been mugged twice personally in London, and there's been another attempted mugging. I'm not lying when I talk about my fiance's sister arriving off the train from Glasgow and literally within 5 minutes being mugged. I'm not lying. This is happening. The city is lawless. My friend died. He is sick for trying to pass us all off as lying propagandists, for talking about what we are actually experiencing in Sadiq Khan's London.
Yeah, and when he talks about Muslims, I'd like to take him to Helmand and see how people live there in rural Helmand, and see the clash of cultures there. He says people haven't been to London. Well, he hasn't been to these places either, so he doesn't know what he's talking about in terms of the cultural aspects of that lead to violence and crime in some cases. But I wonder whether he knows, or whether he's just ignoring the fact that in the 12 months to June, there were 132.9 crimes for every 1,000 people in London. Now, that is higher than the rest of the country, anywhere in England and Wales. There, thefts against from people, so confrontational crime, so phone snatching and whatever, which is traumatic for people, and has the threat of violence, even if violence isn't actually used, which on occasions it is, has gone up 10.5%. Drugs crimes have gone up by 41.5%. So Lewis Goodall, yes, some things have gone down, but those crimes that affect people very deeply and can traumatize people, and who that they experience directly. I'm not talking about fraud, which is not, it's not a victimless crime, but it is a crime that doesn't actually leave somebody necessarily traumatized if it's fraud from a business. But these are crimes that are in people's face. Literally, they're confrontational crimes, and they leave people shaking, traumatized, and never forgetting it, even if they're just witnesses to it. So for Lewis Goodall to come out with this, either he lives in a tiny little bubble in London, and there are a few, and I know a few
Not
other.
many these days, though.
Well, there aren't, no, but you'll know as well that there are one or two commentators rather like Lewis who do live in these rather isolated, rather nice bubbles of affluent people.
Well, I'll tell you what happens. We know what happens. He gets sent a posh car, Rebecca Jane, every single day by his bosses at Global Radio to ship him from, as Henry says, his very nice suburb. It will be somewhere in North London like Islington, to ship him directly to the studio at Leicester Square. And anywhere he goes, he lives a life of privilege. So the guy has no idea. But I would actually counter Rebecca. I think Lewis Goodall is lying, because I don't believe that anyone who's living in London, and I've been here for 20 years, can fail to see what has happened to this city. But of course, it's cities up and down the country, Rebecca Jane.
Yeah, it doesn't fit his narrative, does it, really? The fact that he tries to claim that people are lying about such serious things, and Henry's so beyond right. We're not just talking about a phone theft. We're talking about somebody potentially living in fear of walking down the street, of walking out of their door for the rest of their lives. A threat to a person's safety is beyond serious, however it happens. And how on earth does he's trying to silence us. essentially. He's trying to tell us to shut up with what we think. And how does he think that we can stay silent when you've given such a perfect example, Dan, of your friend and the person who perpetrated that crime getting 3 years in prison, whilst we have the lady who did a tweet also being sent to prison for not much less time than what he has served for actually killing somebody? How are we expected to stay silent when there is such injustice in this country and such... I mean, it just absolutely blows my mind that anybody could try and minimalise this when it is such a serious problem. So he can go back to his bubble and hopefully, let's hope he keeps safe and doesn't have to be talking on our side of what we have to experience and understand.
Is it any wonder people are now seriously suggesting that Keir Starmer could be shagging Vladimir Zelensky? And by the way, I'm not even necessarily talking sexually, but what the hell was going on outside number 10 Downing Street yesterday? We've got video, actually, of this posted by the official prime ministerial account. And I think Starmer's weird behaviour with Zelensky, his total obsession with Ukraine, the fact that he has never been honest about why these grinder Ukrainians decided to firebomb his house, make all of this situation just so damn peculiar. And I have to be honest, I'm not the only one thinking it. Oh my God, I've got to show you this AI video, because to begin with, people thought the hug was AI, and then this happened, which actually sort of summed up what may have gone down behind closed doors. Mike Graham posted quite simply, weird. Kelly J. Keane said, genuinely thought it was AI when I first saw it. Sophie Corcoran wrote, our leader should not be hugging a foreign leader like this. I don't care what country they are from. And I actually feel this hug is more significant, okay? Because maybe I'm being a little bit glib in terms of my jokes about Starmer and his proclivities, which we've spoken about a lot before. But what I am being serious about is that Europe is currently the laughing stock of the world. We are the weak men in the world. Because what is about to happen in Alaska, the USA tonight, is a scene of two strong men in Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin coming together. And you can guarantee that behind closed doors, they are laughing and rubbing their hands with glee, knowing just how pathetic and cucked European leaders like Keir Starmer are when it comes to Vladimir Zelensky. To my superstar panel, former UKIP Deputy Leader Rebecca Jane and the SDP's Foreign Affairs and Defence spokesman Henry Bolton. Now, Henry, the optics of this were totally bizarre. And I know the Ukraine situation is a controversial one. I have a different view to many. I think this war needed to end a very, very long time ago, and the UK has actually been nefarious in terms of our dealing with the war. But what on earth is Starmer doing? Acting like he's greeting his boyfriend. This just feels so weird and unprofessional and deeply out of touch, considering what's about to happen in Alaska tonight.
It is, as Mike Graham said, weird. But we have got a prime minister who is under a lot of pressure. He must recognise that. The economy, rule of law, boats, immigration. His one area in which I think he perceives that he's at least in the setting of the European leaders, and we know he's pro-European, and we know he wants to cozy up as much as he can to them. The one area in which I think he thinks he's on safe ground is in that leading that relationship, that coalition of the willing on behalf of the Europeans, really, of the European nations, including us, not the European Union. I think there's this safe ground, and I think that was signalling to European leaders, look, this relationship between me and Zelensky, it's holding. We're the team. I'm the front man for Europe on this.
Yeah, I think that's who gives a damn? Because Trump is laughing. Trump is laughing in our face. He laughs at Macron. He laughs at Merz. He laughs at Starmer.
But this is a man who is leading a government that has been inept in every single foreign policy step that it's taken, every single one. So, you know, it doesn't surprise me. It's an inept government. Starmer is out of his depth. So, you know, we can expect him not to respond to various situations and scenarios in a competent manner. So, you know, of course, you know, people are laughing at us and so on. I do think that Trump doesn't understand that, you know, he doesn't understand fully the situation. He's Steve Witkoff, who's been his negotiator with Putin, has committed a number of errors that the White House has fully accepted. So there's embarrassment on all sides. I think the problem that we've got here, Dan, yes, Trump is a strong man. Putin is a strong man, but actually, where is the real statesman-like leadership? I keep banging on about it, but the Western world lacks statesmen. And I'm talking about, you know, real statesmen. I'm not talking about leaders. I'm not talking about characters. And I'm not talking about, you know, egoists and characters such as Trump. I am talking about real statesmen who are totally on top of their brief, who have got that strategic grasp, who can cut to the nub of things, get to the root of it, and who've got the eye for detail to be able to pull all the various strands of a government together. I don't see one such leader pretty much in the world, but certainly not in the Western world.
I mean, absolutely true, by the way, absolutely true, although I'm a big fan of Trump's style. I think he's getting shit done. What I think is embarrassing, Rebecca Jane, I am truly embarrassed by Starmer, is the way that he actually embraces this. I mean, Rebecca, he posted on his own X account, like a little bloody schoolgirl, the picture of the hug, and then wrote, "Our support for Ukraine is unwavering." Well, no, it can't be. It actually can't be, number one, because we are dying. We are being economically throttled. We cannot afford for this war to go on. So that's the first point I would make. But the second point is, Rebecca, what is the optics of this? Why is he posting this weird, huggy picture of him and Zelensky, which clearly just proves that he's a joke?
Right. Yes, you're absolutely right. It's all about optics because of the conversation that's happening in Alaska. Trump's got Putin going, so I tell you what, I'll have Zelensky going. That is what it's all about. It's like, we support Ukraine. No, Keir Starmer and the Labour Party support Ukraine, not the entire British public, okay? We want this war done and over. And I think actually the majority of the people in our country would actually prefer to... If there's one person who is not going to solve this war, it's Keir Starmer. Nothing good is going to come out of what that man does, because all that man's interested in is helping any country that is not his own, that he's supposed to be acting for. What he likes to do is to support every other country. Goodness knows why, but that man is not going to solve this. Trump may have a part to play in creating peace with Ukraine and with Russia, but one person who will not have anything to do with it is Keir Starmer, because it doesn't fit his image of him trying to be some kind of white knight of nonsense.
And Rebecca, can I just ask you from a female perspective, is it not weird, given we know the background to what's gone on in the marriage, or I at least know the background to what's gone on in the marriage, and how unhappy Lady Victoria Starmer is, and how all of the public appearances between these two are just so mortifying. Yet Starmer, when he's embracing Zelensky, is so happy. And again, I'm not suggesting a sexual motivation, but I'm just finding it a very odd thing, given that he cannot be comfortable with his wife when he is in public.
You said he's a schoolgirl. I say he's a fangirl. That's what Keir Starmer is. And yes, isn't it embarrassing? And wouldn't you be embarrassed if you were actually his wife, that he is showing more affection to Zelensky than he's shown his wife in public, potentially ever? What does that tell you? You don't need to be a rocket scientist, and you don't need to read tea leaves. It's blatantly obvious. And in my opinion, I'm not going to go that far and say it, actually.
Go on. This show's called Outspoken.
You know exactly what I am getting at. His marriage is a complete front, in my opinion.
It's a sham. It's a total sham marriage.
Total.
Absolutely. And he hasn't even been honest about the true shape of his family, which says it all. Benjamin Butterworth has claimed that GB News is right to ban Tommy Robinson from its channel altogether because the activist is apparently dangerous. Now, I challenged Benjamin on stage at Maya Tusi's new media conference because I thought what he was saying was not only completely ridiculous, but totally hypocritical, given this is a man who very recently interviewed and platformed the Taliban, which I have no problem with. But how can you say Tommy Robinson is more dangerous than the Taliban? Now, the audience were absolutely furious with Butterworth. This is what went down.
On there, and actually, I would make. Why? Because you disagree with him, but I think he's a dangerous person, and I would make the point. No, seriously, free speech. We're talking about people lying in the mainstream media, locking people up for that. Then Laura Koonsberg, Robert Peston, Beth Rigby, Benjamin Butterworth would all be in jail. Right. Was there something? You saw the fights I had with the producers behind the scenes when they tried to tell me what to do. Yeah, but you didn't quit over that, did you? No, I was sacked. Exactly. Because I didn't do what I was told to do.
Now, that all got very heated. It was the first time that Benjamin and I had been face-to-face or together or appeared on any platform for 2 years, because, of course, the great thing about Outspoken is that I do not have to have the token lefties on to appease the off-communists. But I did decide that it was important to challenge further Benjamin Butterworth on the issue of Tommy Robinson after what happened on stage. So I did so in this interview. Now, I'm going to get analysis from my superstar panel, Rebecca Jane and Henry Bolton. But first, watch this and see if you agree with me or him.
It's the reunion no one really wanted, backed by unpopular demand. For the first time in 3 years, my bête noire, Benjamin Butterworth, and I have just been going at it on stage at the New Media Festival. But actually, didn't it feel good? Felt like old times.
It felt like a superstar panel.
Yes.
A phrase people still use to me every now and again in the street. And I was outraged by what you said. So, yeah, it really was old times.
Okay, but can we just be honest? You were booed. There were numerous people in the audience.
I think there were chants
calling for your head.
Yes.
And what do you feel was because I think I know why they really turned on you, but what do you feel was the main reason that they came for you?
Well, my view is, some of these people are basically Tommy Robinson cultists, and if you dare to criticise the Messiah, then they come for you. And I just think there's a certain irony in that, because for people that celebrate free speech, is it not me that was in that room embodying free speech more than the people chanting against me and trying to drown me out?
Absolutely not. We have to discuss this, Benjamin, and I've really got to try and make you see sense on this like I did up on stage. Now, you quite recently interviewed the Taliban. You platformed the Taliban.
Yeah.
This is an organization that kills people, that regularly slaughters journalists, despises women, despises gay people like us. You interviewed them. Now, no one said that when you interviewed them that you were in any way endorsing their message. Yet on stage today, and this is, I think, why you were booed, I'm going to be honest, you said that it would be irresponsible for GB News to platform or interview Tommy Robinson.
Yeah, because the context, I interviewed the Taliban a couple of years ago now, almost exactly 3 or 4 years ago. It was in August. And it was because it was the week that they were taking back Afghanistan, and all the media was talking about it. And I said, well, has anyone asked the Taliban, what are they actually doing? What's their plan?
Tommy Robinson's taking back the United Kingdom.
Well, I don't think so. And the people aren't rising up for Tommy like they were for the Taliban, rather regrettably. And regrettably that they rose to the Taliban, that is.
Well, I think September the 13th 13th, you're going to be shocked.
Well, I don't know what's on September.
Uniting the Kingdom rally.
Well, good luck with that. The rest of them get about 12 people in a dog.
Oh, no.
Good luck with that. But, you know, so the reason I interviewed the Taliban was because they were taking back a country, and I thought as a journalist it's responsible to ask the people in power. But
I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not not criticising you for platforming the Taliban. I actually think it was the responsible thing to do. Remember, we spoke about it at the time.
I've also interviewed Shamik
But
Mabey.
what I'm saying, exactly. But what I am saying is despicable and disgusting, and I've got to call you out for it, Benjamin, is that on stage, you said that GB News is right for banning Tommy Robinson because I think you called him dangerous and you called him a racist.
I mean, what I actually said was that I don't think GB News pays me enough for me to be a decision maker on that in any regard. I don't think they'd care what I say. But
you agree with their decision. You agree with that.
Well, I don't know if it is their decision. I'm not privy. But the point I was making was that questioning somebody when they are deciding the fate of people's lives, as the Taliban was at the time that I got that world exclusive, is different to relentlessly promoting somebody who wishes to stir up anger, who stirs up hate.
How does he do that?
And is accused of all sorts of crimes.
How does he do that?
Well, for example, the fact that he had to go to court because he was playing a video that was banned that was bullying a child in this country.
So you don't believe that there should be freedom of the press?
I don't think you should be able to lie, and I don't think you should use a platform to attack a child, which is the reason why he spent some time behind bars.
But this is really important.
Have to have a barrier.
This is really important, Benjamin. But as a journalist, you are saying that you believe that people should be jailed in this country, that some journalism in this country should be banned. Well, even if you disagree with it, I think that's despicable.
Let me think of what
you're saying.
No, I have thought about what I'm saying, because look at this the other way. First of all, if someone was promoting Taliban propaganda, which is the equivalent, not interviewing the Taliban, then they shouldn't have carte blanche to do that. Let's say someone made up something terrible about you.
It happens all the time.
Well, but something
happens all the bloody time.
They accused one of us of being a paedophile or a child murderer, for example. They shouldn't have a right to do that everywhere and to promote that when it is a lie that is defamatory. We all accept you draw the line somewhere.
Tommy Robinson believes that it is not a lie.
Well,
and I believe
said otherwise.
But I believe what the courts.
Do you not believe in the rule of law? Do you not believe in the law of the land, or does it just not apply to you?
Well, can I be totally honest, Benjamin? Can I be totally honest? I don't think we have a justice system in this country anymore. I think we have a judiciary, and I think we have a judiciary that operates on behalf of the deep state. And I think we've seen it happen a lot with people like Lucy Connolly. But I just want to be very clear about Tommy Robinson, because that was the reason you got that response on stage today. And you used the word dangerous and you used the word racist, and they are such big claims. And I just want to understand why you think that, how you can justify that.
Well, his currency is stirring up anger and stirring up hatred and demonizing Muslims. Now, I'm quite happy to say about how extreme Islam is a threat and a danger. You know, I've seen up close the Taliban, ISIS, and other groups like that. But the fact is that he makes money off that, and he riles people up in the way that I think is unacceptable. And we all know that there is a boundary to this, right? And he doesn't do it for free. He's asking people to give him money as he goes along. I think it's a grift and a dangerous one.
Do you have any proof that he is dangerous or racist?
Well, the fact he's been to prison God knows how many times and is accused of all sorts of crimes, I think in a land that has, you know, law and a rule of law and a justice system, that's evidence enough.
And so the solution is to deplatform Tommy Robinson. Am I irresponsible? I interviewed Tommy Robinson last week. Am I irresponsible for doing so?
Well, I think you're doing it because you know there is a small, loud group of people who will lap it up. And actually, this is the point.
It's not a small group, it's a loud group, though.
It's a loud group.
And we're taking the country back.
I don't think shouting loud makes you right, I'm afraid. Call me old-fashioned. And the thing is that, you know, in the new media, you know that the algorithms are king and that a small group of people can make a large profit. And so you have to keep speaking to that audience, regardless of whether it's right or responsible.
Honestly, you've got to go back on stage. But honestly, all I would say is that, trust me, talking about Tommy Robinson is one of the hardest things to do online in the United Kingdom, because the big tech companies have been working with the government for a long time to demonetize and to shut down that conversation. But Benjamin, I have missed this a little bit.
I don't know if I have.
I've missed this a little bit. Come on, yes, you have. Anyway, you're needed back on stage.
Oh, goodness gracious me. To my superstar panel, Henry Bolton and Rebecca Jane. Now, Rebecca, I know you've had a lot of criticism for having a go at Tommy Robinson in the past, but how on earth can GB News or a reporter like Benjamin Butterworth say, okay, we're going to platform anti-white racists, we're going to platform Muslim extremists, we're going to platform Islamists, we're going to platform the bloody Taliban, but continue this ban on Tommy Robinson? I mean, we saw at the weekend Trigonometry, which is obviously in the independent media space, but for a long time had a ban on Tommy Robinson, reversed it, and it's become one of their most popular interviews.
Honestly, that was exhausting to watch.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
That
I didn't warn you.
was-
I didn't warn you.
It was the backpedaling. It was the saying one thing and then I'll detract from it. And then I'll say about Tommy Robinson trying to make money. Well, you sit on GB News for free? No, you're not, Benjamin. And I don't actually mind the guy. And there's a few points where I actually agree with him. Not in that interview. That interview was a car crash for him, poor thing. No, there is, and we know this, I have been reasonably outspoken that I'm not the biggest Tommy Robinson fan. There's a lot of things that I don't particularly like either. However, do I think it's right that he should be banned from any network? No, absolutely not. Because if you support free speech, then you support it. And that's the point that you were trying to make. How on earth can any person who has interviewed the Taliban think that that's okay, but Tommy Robinson, no, that's too far. He's too dangerous. Taliban, no, they're not too dangerous. We can interview them. What a load of nonsense, Benjamin. He said it himself. He blamed you for it about clickbait and that you're interviewing Tommy just for the attention. You said what you said, Benjamin, about Tommy for the attention. You interviewed the Taliban for attention. So unfortunately, the hypocrisy was exhausting, and it's a no from me.
Henry Bolton, what do you think of this?
I think Rebecca's entirely right about the hypocrisy. I know Benjamin. I mean, you can have a perfectly convivial conversation with him, off camera. You come onto camera, and all of a sudden, it's it's all the provocation is there. It's because, as he knows, that's what gets views, and that's his business. So yeah, he's being hypocritical. But look, I was maybe 3 years ago. I marched past the Cenotaph on Remembrance Day, and Tommy and his band all wanted to go down on. And disrupt that. He was threatening to go in, whilst the march past was going on. Now, I'll tell you what, the anger at just that idea amongst the veterans who were just about to step off to march down through Whitehall was, that would have been, I'm very glad he didn't go anywhere near it. And he decided not to in the end. But that's, I think we must, and we are, talking about the issues that Tommy has brought up, and he's been talking about the grooming gangs for years. So these are pertinent, relevant, important issues that we've got to look at. But we've also got to be, when I think journalists and presenters speak to anybody, they must be careful as to whether or not they are enabling them to speak freely, talk about the issues that are important, or whether they're promoting them. Mm-hmm. And that's a difficult line to tread, but it is one that I think often is ignored. Somebody's a larger, and I can look at other people. Nigel Farage, he has got a mouthpiece in GB News. He's got a mouthpiece in the Daily Express. Love him or loathe him, whatever you're feeling about reform. Is why do they get this airtime and the pages in the papers when others don't? When others are saying exactly the same thing? It is because there is a wish to promote an individual, promote a political party, and there's a danger that the same thing will happen with Tommy Robinson. There's another element to it, which I know from my time as UKIP leader, when Gerard Batten wanted to court Tommy Robinson, then it was a really difficult thing, because then the party would have been shut out from the mainstream media, but you need the mainstream media to get across. So you've got the reality, and there are other organizations, highly respectable, I'm not going to name one of them, but one of which was highly influential in Whitehall, was absolutely prepared to work with me, but not with anyone who was associated with Tommy Robinson, because then they wouldn't get the influence that they had in Whitehall, which was extremely positive influence. That's the reality of the political cockpit we live in. And that's something that politicians need to navigate. Some do it successfully, some don't. But it's not a simple issue of, is Tommy right in what he says and what he's talking about? It's a broader issue than that.
Absolutely fascinating insight. Thank you to my superstar panel, Henry Bolton, who is, of course, now the defence, the security and the foreign affairs spokesman for the SDP, but also a former army officer and diplomat too, and Rebecca Jane, who is just a brilliant person, but also obviously legal expert, broadcaster and former deputy leader of UKIP. Thank you both so much. Okay, it's the big one now, though. Time to reveal the worst Briton in the world this week. But first, your comments. Thank you so much to Philip Shepherd, by the way, for the super chat during the show, who said, what I can say is release Lucy Connolly straight away, and she should get compensation for the time she has been in prison. Amen to that. But to your comments in terms of our nominees. In fact, let me run you through the nominees first. From Monday, it was Camilla Tominey for her white supremacist attack on Tommy Robinson. On Tuesday, Nicola Sturgeon for her book of propaganda. Wednesday, Victoria Derbyshire for trying to make illegal migrants the sympathy figures in a Newsnight interview. And on Thursday, Narinder Kaur for her Strictly Come Dancing attack on Tom Skinner. Okay, some of your comments are in. Yankee Kev said, Sturgeon destroyed Scotland, never forgive and never forget. 10 years plus of nothing but down, down, down. TT Drummond said, Camilla Tominey is so patronising and thinks she's a cut above. MW8653 said, Victoria Derbyshire should have more votes after that joke of an interview she did on Newsnight about the hotel migrants. But Nicholas Lampard said, it's always Narinder. She is the most racist, hateful person I've ever had the misfortune to come across. Helen Shepherd said, Narinder loves to use the words vile and racist. In my opinion, she is the most vile and most racist person I've had the misfortune of watching spouting her bile. And Malcolm Sumner said, pointless nominating Narinder Kaur as she is a professional race baiter and no one takes any notice of what she says. Okay, the results are in. In fourth place, with 8% of the vote, Victoria Derbyshire. In third place, with 12% of the vote, Camilla Tominey. The runner-up, with 26% of the vote, Nicola Sturgeon. But the worst Briton in the world this week, by a 54% majority, is Narinder Kaur. Oh, goodness me. Goodness me. Okay, coming up in the Uncancelled After Show on Substack, Prince William and Catherine's hilarious nickname for Meghan Markle's As Ever product range is revealed. We're teaming up with the YouTube sensations, the Sidley twins, who are standing by. But I would also love you to sign up to my Substack, www.outspoken.live. You can do it completely for free, because tonight, as there is this seismic news breaking, I am going to be hosting a very special live chat in the message section of Substack. I honestly love it when we do this. We do it for breaking news. And what it means is that I get to communicate in real time with you as this news is breaking. You can ask me questions. I'll let you know what I think. And it's honestly such a brilliant forum and a great way to do breaking news. Substack is a free speech platform. It protects me from big tech cancellation. You can message me direct. Honestly, it's a really, really important place. We are getting so close at the moment to 50,000 subscribers, and we're going to have a big celebration when we get there. So please do sign up, www.outspoken.live. And from about, I think it's about 8 p.m. UK time, about 3 p.m. Eastern time, I will be tracking along as we await the big moment when either Trump emerges on his own, signifying that the talks have failed, or Trump emerges with Putin, suggesting that there might be a ceasefire in Ukraine. All of the action tonight with me is on the Outspoken Substack, www.outspoken.live. All you do is enter that your email address. If I just bring the box up again, because then I can explain how you do it, you'll see there's that box there. You just have to enter your email address, hit subscribe, and you're done. And you can be part of the action with the breaking news tonight. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, though. We're back live here on YouTube and Rumble at 5 p.m. UK time, midday Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Remember, too, though, that Outspoken is now available as a podcast as well. And we've been so high on the charts over the past week, which I'm so grateful for. So please do subscribe either on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or actually wherever you download your podcasts. And if you can, it really helps on those podcast platforms for you to do this thing called rate and review. So obviously give me 5 stars. Obviously explain why you love the Outspoken podcast and what that does is sort of boost us up the algorithm. Because of course we're completely independent and we're competing against these huge guns, you know, people like from News Corporation and Global Radio and Gary Lineker's outfit. Then there's just little old us, but we're doing incredibly well. And so it really, really would help me if you do subscribe to the podcast and then rate and review as well. Okay, have an amazing weekend. Enjoy whatever you are doing. I hope the weather is good. Hope to chat to you on Substack later on this evening. And most importantly, I promise to keep fighting for you.